sentence, I couldn't find the lines to tell you that way, but the sentence that reads that signage clearing states, it should be that signage clearly states. It follows, Mr. Janeski of Land Works is requesting that signage, it should be clearly states.
Yes, you're right. Line 133.
And then,
I think it's Genesco, but I'm not sure.
yeah, it was spelled differently twice, so
Okay.
I also agree. I don't know which of the two spellings is correct.
I think it's
Janeski or Genesco are spelled differently, so whichever is the correct, we should
Is that all?
make that
Yes,
consistent.
it is O, but I can't, right now, it's spelled out.
And then there's a Fisk without an E. So we could add that as well. Anything else for comments on the minutes? Approve the minutes then?
Would they be approved as correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Do you want a second on that, or are you just gonna?
I think we don't need to.
Okay.
We're all set with that. We have no agenda items that I'm aware of. I don't know if folks here who also attended the last meeting have any issues or items they want to discuss. I need to ask, because I came in to try traffic problems, so I came in a little just after 5:30, but 6:30. But this is just preliminary. They're going to come back with something, having digested some of the comments today. Is that the idea?
Correct. This informal discussion was sort of the first in a way to try to help coordinate between the Design Review Board and the Zoning Commission. And so scheduling this sort of informal discussion at about 6:30, and hopefully will be fairly convenient for most of the Zoning Commission members to come in a few minutes early, gives you kind of a look ahead as to what they're thinking about. We looked at, with the applicant, potential applicant, 2 or 3 different other scenarios, and this is different from all those as well. So there's plenty of time for comments. They're trying to figure out their numbers and try to figure out if it works. But if there are other things about it, whether it's the difference in the units or whatever it happens to be, just let us know. So there should be plenty of time.
Did they mention price points for these?
You didn't?
Did they start that discussion before 6:30?
Yes, about 6:20,
Okay.
something like
It'd
that.
just be a good idea if we're gonna
No, it's my
show up for
fault.
6:30.
Yep. No, it's my fault. I told them 6:30 because I figured we'd be able to talk about that much, but they didn't really want to hear any more about zoning regulations at that point, so let them start. So I
You're
apologize.
filibustering?
No.
One other point on the design review meeting that was held, they did agree that Mark's sign for the Redstone was okay, except that they wanted the lights changed from being above to being ground-based and shining up, which was the way it was in the first place, I think. And somebody said, well, they'd rather have them shining down, but they couldn't find lights that didn't obscure the sign. And some of the members of the Design Review Board recognized that there was no space to fix them. And once they were affixed, they were going to block the thing. So they said, why don't you put it below? Mark said, we'd be happy to. So that was the only thing. So when we see their referral, that's what it would say.
Okay. Good. Also looks like on the schedule that we have no other meetings in January and just the one in February as well.
That's correct. If need be, and if something comes up, I'll certainly let everybody know and find out whether you want to have a special meeting or not, but at this moment, I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
So,
Any other items anybody has?
I'll give you a couple of quick things that I was working on I mentioned to the Design Review Board earlier this evening as well, working on some items with a consultant that the Capital Region Council of Governments has retained about a year ago, actually, to work on some draft zoning regulations. And there are a series of them. One of them has to do with inclusionary or workforce housing regulations. And I didn't make enough copies for everybody, but if that's something you're interested in, I'll just pass it along and feel free to take it. The covers of these look all somewhat similar, so just to let you know that there are some different ones. The next one is housing diversity and affordability, specifically with regard to accessory apartment dwelling units. And again, this is another one that if you're interested in, please feel free to take that. And if you don't get one and you're interested in that topic, just let me know and I'm happy to make more copies as well.
This is something that was given to CROG as a discussion item?
CROG actually came up with, hired the consultant to come up with these, and we've been working with a group of people, other planners actually from other towns. It's called a sustainability study, and a lot of these items have to do specifically with sustainability. So whether it's housing diversity or infill development or affordable development, those are the types of things that they were looking at. They actually had one on community gardens too, which I didn't bother to copy because I thought we have enough community garden information. I really wasn't sure the commission would be interested in that, but if you are, I'm happy to.
Could you post these someplace on the website? You
Yeah.
know, when we look at our agenda items, there could be another section set up that would be reference materials. And it saves copying these things. And you get better color.
Yep, I'm happy to post it, sure.
It just avoids, I mean, I go home with this paper and throw it away because my file cabinet gets that big zoning stuff.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, people work differently. If you, as I say, if you want a copy, fine. If you don't, that's also fine. The last one that I wanted to give to you tonight has to do with outdoor lighting. And we talked a little bit about some of the potential uses for outdoor lighting and abuses of outdoor lighting. Sometimes we get different applications, so if that's one you want to take a look at as well. So some of these things are things that we'll be bringing to you in the near future. I guess there is one more. There's another one called Live Work Units. This is the last one I have, sorry. So those are things that, again, I'll be talking to you about in the future to see if you have any interest in. As we go into the process of sort of rehabilitating the regulations is something that I'd really like to propose to do this fiscal year, be part of the budget, to try to propose to do that. Whether these regulations or any sort of variation of these regulations have the commission's interest in any way to incorporate into the regs, let me know. That'd be greatly appreciated.
So is it, who is Clarion? Is that someone that the council is?
Clarion is a consultant. They have offices all over the country. This particular group was out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. They do a lot of form-based codes. Actually, they do a lot of land use regulation all over the country. Probably one of the better consulting firms in the country.
Move we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor? Done? Yeah.
Pretty much. Anything else, Hiram?
Hiram, the couple of meetings ago, we got a report from the new zoning enforcement officer.
Correct.
I was kind of hoping that would be at least monthly, if not for every meeting.
That's correct.
Did we get anything for this meeting?
That was my last topic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You teed that up very nice, Ned.
Thank you.
Should we check it?
Well,
Not to go over the whole thing.
no, design review had a pretty good.
I think you should announce that he's back and then I'm...
No longer alternate.
I didn't mean to disrupt the whole
That's
flow
all
of
right.
this great meeting, but
And the last thing from the code enforcement officer, too, in response to your question, what Michael's also done is he's taken a look at the home occupation regulations. And here's a copy. He did a two-page memo on home occupation regulations that he has some suggestions that, again, not to consider for this evening, but take a look at those if you would, please, to see if those are things that we'd like to incorporate into our regulations as we go through revisions in the next year. Potentially with more and more people working from home, if there are ways to approve home offices, home businesses, where they don't have impacts with regard to traffic, significant number of deliveries, more than we might get FedEx or UPS deliveries now. No big deal, very similar. So those are the kinds of things that he suggests that we take a look at and possibly incorporate into our regulations. So we will get reports from the code enforcement officer. I've indicated to him that about once a month would be a good idea. Keep the commission up to date as to what's going on. Hopefully those are helpful. He's pretty complete with regard to what he talks about, so if that's helpful. That's good. If you'd rather get it on, we can just put it as part of your package rather than make paper copies too. If you'd rather that, happy to do that too.
That works for me.
That's fine. We'll do that then. That's great.
Hey, Hiram, on this blight inspection that this guy's doing, somebody made a couple comments to me about this contractor that's working in town, RWH.
Okay.
Just leaves his trucks all over the place and his equipment on the side of the road for extended periods of time. Can he do that? I mean, he's not working for the town, he's putting utilities in for utilities, but
I don't know, Jerry,
he's
let
got
me,
the equipment parked all over Simsbury now, it's up in Granby. I've never seen a contractor that just leaves dump trucks parked on the side of the road with excavators for weeks, sometimes months at a time.
okay.
I mean, I don't think it's, we're citing somebody for having equipment in their yard, yet we got a contractor that shows up in town working for a private utility, they just leave equipment. I mean, it's been down by Mitchell's, by the barber shop for months.
Yeah. Okay, I will definitely take a look at that, see what we can do about that.
RWH is a water contractor for the water company, but, I know in years past, when Simscroft did the water work, he took his equipment away.
Okay.
He cleaned his site up at night and it was orderly, but.
Brings back memories of the West Street redo.
Yeah, forever, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, that was awful. 1980. The bridge was built in 1983, 1984, 1985.
Yeah. Okay,
That's a good point.
we do that.
This is good, though. I mean, it's
That's good. Is there a
it's not
thing?
good that he has so much to work on.
Well, it isn't, but unfortunately, they've always been there. It's just that time has sort of kept people from focusing on it because there's so many other things to do. But that's his primary function and primary focus, so that's basically what he's doing. He's also,
A lot of this stuff now with the foreclosure.
some of it is, that's one thing too, I'll just mention quickly. Part of the next year's budget is we're gonna put some money in there for dealing with structures that have been foreclosed on and haven't been maintained. For example, last year we had one, I think it was Lost Brook, where there was a significant amount of deterioration in the structure, and the neighbors came in and were very upset about the way it looked and the potential impact on their property values. And so we were asked to make it safe, go in, building official went there with the zoning enforcement officer as well, and had to board it up, had to cut the grass, and make it look at least presentable. It cost us $5,000, which we had not budgeted for. Right now, we have over 150 potential foreclosures on the books. Potential of that happening at least 2 or 3 more times.
260 something of them last month.
Yeah, well,
Maybe some of them have moved forward.
Simsbury?
It's in some form of foreclosure, whether that's pre or, I mean, there's multiple
there's
phases.
about three phases, I believe, and so we're up at about 192.
You
or so.
get to the point where the bank, where somebody owns the property, the banks claim that they don't own it because it went into this slice and dicing thing where no one knows really who owns it. So you call them up and they may have been the servicing people for it, but they won't do anything.
Well, the town should be able to put a lien on the property now.
Well, that's another thing that we do have that potential change
bank will
to the
get
blight
it from you.
ordinance. Well, it's interesting, if we can get the banks to call us back, that's a pretty rare occurrence actually right now too. There are certain banks that are more difficult to deal with than others.
Even with ones with liens on them?
Yeah, it's amazing. They say, well, we'll call our property management people to get right out. Call the property management people and say, well, we'll be there in about 6 months because that's our list right now, and they just simply don't care. Very frustrating.
Is there anything we can do legislatively?
We've actually talked to the legislature about that. I've talked to CCM about that, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities about that, and trying to do that. Connecticut has a sort of a unique, well, it's unique, but it's one of the ways that deal with foreclosures, and that the courts are involved. And it's very difficult to get around that process. The legislature, in its historical perspective on this, has also felt that, well, it's good to have the courts involved so that these banks can't foreclose on these people right away and sort of kick them out of their houses. The flip side of that is we can't get any action taken either, and we can't get the properties cleared up, so it takes a long time, very frustrating, and we're stuck in the middle as staff. Neighbors are upset, understandably so, so it's very difficult to deal with, but we're trying to do the best we can on that. So, but I just wanted to let you know that we're probably going to put some money in the budget, at least so that it's there in case we need to do it again. Last year, we had to take $5,000 out of other things that we wanted to do, and simply didn't have it anymore. We will not get that money back until that property is sold, which may be 2, 3, 4 years. We'll see what happens with that. But
It was one property?
one property for $5,000, yeah. I mean, by the time they boarded it up, went to the property, cleaned it up, inspected it, I think there had also been a fire in it as well. It was a kind of a
So we
complicated.
we shouldn't expect that it would be 5,000 in most cases, actually.
Probably not.
Less, yeah.
Probably not. But we want to be able to lien the property just to make sure that when it does transfer, we get our money back,
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
least. So that's basically it, so. Not trying to tread on people's misfortune, certainly, but we just need to be able to keep the neighborhood in good shape. So that's all I have for tonight. If you have any comments on either what you heard as part of the discussion with design review, interesting discussion, I thought, interesting initial discussion, or any comments on either the regulations that could come up in the future or anything else, just let me know.
One last question here, I'm just gonna it keeps coming up and people are probably bored of hearing about it, but just to keep the ball rolling, what's going on with Big Y?
I don't have anything new. My understanding was that was supposed to be resolved before the end of the year. I haven't heard that it is resolved. There are 2 or 3 other things that are in the works. One is Big Y has said they'll sign the agreement and close on the property as soon as that easement situation is worked out. I just don't know how close it is to being worked out. The other thing is that there are other ways that they could come back. They could come back to the commission, for example, and simply make a cul-de-sac and go back out the same driveway that they came in. That's a possibility. And I suggested to them, while I don't have a vote for it, that if they came back to the commission and that was something that was properly designed, that the commission would probably act favorably upon that in a fairly short order as well. So that's a second way. And then the third thing is, I know the town engineer has been talking with the town attorney about the possibility of actually turning the end of the driveway of the skating center into a town road as opposed to simply town property. That's a process that the town attorney is looking into now as well. So those are the 3.
How is the town acting with the owners of the skating club? Is there good communication between the two, or is it more combative?
I honestly, I can't say it's combative. I don't know the level of communication. I know that I've offered to the owner of the property, to Rick Wagner, I've said, if there's anything that I can do, I'd be happy to intercede. I'm certainly not the town attorney, and I not much I can do in that regard, but I've offered our services to hold meetings if necessary. So I haven't heard anything back from them where they've asked for that help, but trying to move that along, no question.
The problem is the guy that has the lease on the skating center, right?
The skating center needs to sign that easement, that's correct. Yeah, according to the town
They have
attorney.
approval rights on the use of the road, as they paid for the improvements for the road on top of our land.
As I understand the legal question, the question is whether the easement, whether the additional use of that driveway would place an additional burden on the easement, that whether it overburden that easement or not. That's really the question.
But the owner of the skating club has approval rights as to whether that's being overused?
Tricky question. Let me see if I can answer it sort of briefly. The town attorney has said that if Big Y came in tomorrow and wanted a building permit for that property, we could issue it. The attorney for Big Y has said, we want to see this issue cleared up before they come in and get a building permit. They don't want to go forward with building and then be told at the 11th hour, we're going to just put up a little fence here. Something like that. So honestly, I don't know a clear answer to your question, Derek, but I think that there are a number of different views of it, and I think the simplest thing is Big Y would like to see it cleared up, and I think that's their position at this point in time. So, yeah. Sometimes, actually it's happened in the town center as well, too. We actually probably would have had another development in the town center already as well if the 2 adjacent property owners had been able to agree on a right-of-way issue. Fell apart. So sometimes we've met the enemy and he's us. I think that's said before.
All right, thank you.
Hiram, what about the WeTalk
Study?
regs? Yeah.
Yeah, the draft of that was sent to us about 30 days ago. I did some preliminary review, sent it back to them. I asked them today, actually, for a final draft of that so I can get that to you as soon as possible. So I know it's overdue, and I apologize for that. I'll get that to you as quickly as I possibly can.
I have one other item that I forgot about, but the Open Space Committee needs a representation,
representative from the zoning commission, Ed Pavich, had done this for us in the past. So since I already volunteered Dave for the TRB, if somebody has time, these meetings are usually in the afternoon. They're very hard for me to get to in town.
They're usually
They meet
about,
maybe, I think they've met in 2 years, maybe 3 times. It's not a big burden, but that's one of those great lies too.
3 times in 2 years I'll do it, but.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested in that, you can see I volunteered to hire him, Derek.
Look at me. I keep hearing your voice right there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, we should be represented, but, you know, it'd be nice.
Is there any additional information you could provide about the open space
Since you
commission?
expressed interest, Derek, I'll be glad to get that information to you right away.
I don't think they meet very often.
No, yeah.
meet infrequently. I mean, Rob's correct, and that it just usually meets, I think, 4:30, maybe for an hour, and I think that's about it. So.
How'd this work today? The 5:30, starting at 5, they started at 5:30. I got here about 6. Dave, you've been here. I thought it was great that even though they started a little earlier than everybody could get here, the overlap, and I apologize I had to leave, but I think that this will help.
I think it's good.
They seem to field questions from everyone, not just from the people on them.
Right.
So I think people that had questions got them answered.
Yeah.
And it seemed like if they're not going to be too rigid on that type of thing, it might be a good idea.
I think it's meant to be collaborative, right? I mean, that's
Yeah,
the whole point.
of it,
Yeah.
So I like the format a lot.
I think it was helpful, as long as it's an informal, I think there's no problem with that at all. Once it becomes an actual application,
Right.
you're a little bit more careful.
Yeah, they have to be able, the DRB has to have the freedom to operate, with their charter. That's good.
Yeah.
How do we feel about the project? I don't really want to rehear the whole thing, but just generally.
It seemed like a nice use and reuse.
It'd be nice to have something other than residential to look at, but
Well, the thing, I mean, we have no
business.
way to live in our downtown. This is the closest thing that we've even come to having living downtown. I mean, truly. I mean, you've got the West Street property, but you have to cross Route 10. You've got to either cross Route 10 or
Yeah.
jump on the flower garden and jump over.
Looks handsome. Looked like a handsome
I think
project.
it looks nice.
What was the DRB's comments? Just generally,
They didn't like the consistency, they're all the same.
yeah,
They heard that numerous times.
yeah, from several different people.
Yeah.
I thought it was Billingsgate with the houses close together, but it was pretty much that same. A lot of them have the garages in the back, and
At Billingsgate.
at this place also.
I see.
The whole road that runs along
Right.
between Ensign, Bickford, and them, they have a road
Yeah,
there.
I
and
got that.
They come in from the back.
Yeah.
These are the single ones. And, but they seemed a little closer together. They seem to be a lot more of them.
But they're 5 per acre. That's what 5 dwelling units per acre. There's 3+ acres and 15 units, counting the center. So that's not extraordinarily dense.
Certainly not for
And
the
this is the
center.
town center, so
Right.
we're looking to make it a little more urban area.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is it's kind of in this site, as the comment was made, is that you really wouldn't see from anywhere outside the site, you wouldn't see any garage doors just because of the topography and the
That
current.
part that is true.
And I think
What, did
that's-
they put a price point on it or not? No, but they wouldn't. Who asked? Somebody had to ask.
Yeah.
Nobody asked.
Nobody asked?
I think John Sokol said that they were still working on their pencils were getting sharper, so I think perhaps the next time they'll have a little more, better idea. One of the things too
Yeah,
that,
probably.
Just-
500,000.
They were 2,500 feet each.
2,500 square feet?
yeah,
It'll be more than that. I think they're gonna market the heck out of the downtown walkabilities, rails to trails. I mean, you're
You're right
right.
to have somebody write the check.
Yeah, they'll probably start.
Billingsgate, they're losing money over there.
What about Mill Pond? What about the condos at Mill Pond?
Those are around 4.
A little bit more.
4 to 450. Low
They're
4s.
not as big as these, are they?
They're stacked though.
Oh, yeah, no, I think
The
they're
first
about
floor
the same
living
size.
is a
I
big
thought there
deal.
were 22.
Yeah, and I think the design and the location of these may be, I think it
A
was
little bit more
pointed out.
upscale.
So,
All right.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Sorry, beat you to it.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.